Hi, my name is Sophia, and for my individual project I decided to do a food journal. I made myself chicken soup, so that required about 2 chicken thighs, so a handful of baby carrots, half a cup of rice, water obviously for the broth, and a little bit of garlic and salt. And so I had this pretty early in the morning just to get my day started. I wasn't really feeling that well, so I decided to eat a soup, and it actually turned out really good. Later in the day, I usually go to class on Tuesday, so right before class I went to get myself something to eat, and I decided on beef pho, Vietnamese dish. So it had beef meatballs and a little bit of brisket, and so it was enough for one person, and it had the rice noodles. Today I had to babysit my nephew, so it was a little bit difficult trying to figure out when exactly to eat, but when I first got to his house I made myself some breakfast. So that included an egg white omelet, which included some onions, tomato, a little bit of salt, garlic powder, half of pork sausage that was just kind of left over in the fridge. We also had some Peruvian beans, so I kind of just smashed those up all together, refried beans, and on a slice of whole wheat. I just kind of toasted it with butter in a pan, and then I put cream cheese on it and some homemade apricot. And I had 1 cup of chamomile tea. So I didn't really have another chance to really sit down and have a meal because I was babysitting my nephew. So finally when I got home I had about a half a cup of orange juice because I was still feeling a little sick from the day before. And I made myself a quesadilla because I was going to the baseball game that night with my family. So what I did is basically I just, cut up a little bit of Monterey Jack cheese. I warmed up a flour tortilla and I made myself a quesadilla. But I wanted a little bit of protein, so I decided to cook up some carne asada that I had in the refrigerator, and so I just kind of put a little bit of seasoning on that, and once the cheese was melted I just added the meat into the tortilla, and it was really delicious. And I like to make this just because it's easy and it doesn't take a lot of time. So usually I work at the restaurant on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, so it's really difficult for me to get a set time to eat and have a set meal. But on this particular day I actually woke up and had a mango just because I was hungry. I had a little bit of soup that was left over from staff meal the night before. So what that had was a little bit of beef tongue, and it also had garbanzo beans, a little bit of pork belly, poblano peppers, and some kale. And that was about 8 ounces or so. And then later on I had a little bit of bread with lemon aioli, or like a lemon mayonnaise basically. And so at work later on we always do testers between 4 o'clock and 4:30, or between 4 and 5. So testers is just kind of like you make a dish that you haven't made before, or in my case if a dish has already been there for a couple of days, but because I just started working that day I want to do a tester just so I know that I'm doing it correctly. So, and it's usually only you have a bite or two between 4:30 to 5 o'clock. Everybody puts out testers. It's only a couple bites at most. We might serve ourselves like half of a cup to eat, but we're also trying several different things. So for testers this day there was a meat paella, which has a little bit of pork belly, our house made morcilla chorizo, and mussels was on this one. And for the veggie paella it was just a bunch of different vegetables, celery root, and then farm eggs right on top. So for me that day I made coca flatbread. And so it's just a flatbread with a sauce on top, which is kind of a tomato, onion, garlic sauce on top. And then a little bit of roasted spring onions and poblano peppers. And then it's topped with roasted asparagus and a little bit of Mahone cheese, and then an egg. The next thing was a fava bean salad, And so this fava bean salad was plated raw and just a toss with a little bit of garlic, lemon vinaigrette, with a little cheese and a little salt and pepper to top. So that's what we had for testers that day. And throughout the service, I had about 3 cups of water, so 16 ounces each. So at the end of the day, we always make staff meal, and it depends if I'm hungry or if I'm trying to get out of there on time. Sometimes I eat staff meal, sometimes I don't eat staff meal. For tonight, I did have staff meal, so we had a little bit of pasta and some paella and just a little bit of leftover bread. So I had like 12 ounces of orange juice, but it was from concentrate, just kind of the big cubes that come like in a frozen container that we make at my house. And then I also had a slice of toast with homemade apricot jam. Now this jam comes from my job and it was leftover. So on Fridays, it's important to note that at work we have paella Fridays. So Fridays is the only day that we're open during the day in the bodega, which is a cafe. And so we serve a big paella family style and ensalada de col, which is just thinly cut cabbage with a dressing with some cheese, olives, and toasted pistachios. And so basically at the end of that shift, whatever's left over we can eat. So I just had a little bit of snack like in a cazuela. So it was really good. And so once again, we have testers, and today we had rockfish with gambas. So it's just a fish cooked on the plancha. Same thing with the shrimp. It's just kind of on top of the plancha, just seared nice and cooked all the way through. We had the arroz negro, is a squid ink seafood paella with sole, which fish sole, and a little bit of clams. From my station, what I made was croquetas, which I like to call fancy fish sticks because it's steelhead and smoked salmon with a bunch of potatoes, and we pipe them out, served with the herb crema. So in my herb crema, I like to put parsley, cilantro, tarragon if we have it, mint for sure, and recently we've been adding basil in it, and it's really good. It brings out the flavor. A little bit of lemon zest and lemon juice because we call it a lemon herb crema. So it's really good, and it's made with Greek yogurt. Then I made patatas bravas. So we cook the potatoes, we roast them off in the oven first. We cut them up into little cubes. We fry those to get them nice and crispy. And then we plate it with spicy aioli, which is a really delicious. It's made with piquillos and smoky and spicy pimenton. The salad station put up a ajo blanco tester, which is a chilled almond and garlic soup topped with some herb olive oil and some cured herring roe, which is really good. For staff meal, we had soup. Not exactly sure, it was just kind of thrown together last minute. I had a 16-ounce Estrella beer, so at the end of the night we're also entitled to 1 staff beer or alcoholic beverage. And then I also had a really, really delicious white rice with the veggie curry. I wake up and I decided that I'm gonna make myself a banana smoothie. So we like to call it chocomil. So basically we just fill the blender with a little bit of milk, some Nestle chocolate mix, and I like to add a banana, and the riper the better because it gives it, you know, a little sweet flavor, so you don't have to add any sugar. You blend that all up, and I made myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with strawberry jam and crunchy peanut butter, which is my favorite. And like I said, sometimes I want to eat at work, sometimes I don't. Because I had a breakfast in this case, this was one of those days where I just wasn't really hungry at work, or we didn't make a lot of testers that day. And then at the end of the night, because it's Saturday and I know I get to rest and sleep in tomorrow, I decided that I wanted just to be done with work. So we cleaned up fast. It's finally my day off. I decided to go to the baseball game with my sister, and I decided to have a cheeseburger with some french fries and a Pepsi. And so later that night, I had to go to a work training from 7 to 9 o'clock, and we decided to go out for some drinks after. So I had a margarita and then I had a beer. So today I usually work from home for a little bit on the computer because I don't have an office at my current site. Made myself a cheese quesadilla. Like I said before, it's super easy to make. It takes less than 5 minutes to make. So I made myself a quesadilla, then I went to work. So I usually work between, 4 and 7 or later if I need to. So I was there, and then I came home and I wasn't really hungry, so I just kind of went about my business. And then Later on in that night, around 11 o'clock, I decided I was hungry, so I always like to snack on some cereal. So I had some cereal for my dinner / midnight snack. So it's Tuesday again, so I'm back at school. I met up with my group a little bit earlier, so I didn't have a chance to make myself any breakfast. I really like to sleep in as much as I can before I have to leave. So after I met up with my group, I just went to go get a slice of pepperoni pizza and a little can of Coke. My teammate and I went to the restaurant where we were doing our project at, and so since he knows the people that work there, they actually made us a meatball sub with mozzarella, pepperoni, cheese, garlic, and a side of ravioli with meat sauce, and everything was house made. The meatballs are really tender, and it was really good. So later I head back and I have to finish a paper, so I decided to stop at Starbucks, finish my paper, and I order a grande hot chocolate. So finally I have a day off and I've been craving Japanese food. So earlier in the morning I just had a couple rice cracker snacks that we have in our house, you know, Costco bag, just mixed. Really good, but you know, that wasn't really satisfying me. So later on in the day I decided to go to Alameda and do a little shopping, and then I got hungry, so I decided to go to Sushi House, my favorite sushi restaurant to go to, because I know what I want and I like how they make it. So when you order sushi, they always bring you a little side of soup and salad, which is my favorite. So I had miso soup, a very little, probably half a cup, and then the Japanese salad, maybe like a cup of lettuce. It had a little bit of carrots, cucumbers, and tomatoes with their delicious Japanese sauce. And then for my drink, I actually had a Sapporo beer, which is really good. I like it because it's nice and crisp. And then for my entrees, I had hand rolls instead of sushi rolls. So I had a spider and an Alaskan roll, and I'm geared towards more the spider roll because it's crispier. So the next time I eat sushi, I always get, you know, a spider roll. And then I had the chicken donburi over rice with teriyaki sauce, which is another one of my really favorite things to get. And the favorite thing about that is that I always have leftovers. So I have leftover chicken donburi that I eat, and I also decide that it's too hot not to have this strawberry popsicle that I have in my freezer, so that's what I eat. Later on when I get to work, my coworker decides to make us all a snack, so we have a little pork belly poblano pepper with aioli sandwich. It's really delicious. And then I'm still hungry, so I decide to make myself a chopped egg with aioli on our baguette that we have that's freshly delivered every single day from Firebrand Bread. It's really good. And then I decide a little bit later I'm gonna have another snack, which is a sweet biscuit, just a little leftover dessert from the night before. Tonight at work for staff meal was all about Asian food and fried food. So we had fried rice, super delicious fried rice. We make it just in the big paella pan. And we also had Asian infused fried chicken, so it was really delicious. My coworker actually showed me a trick where you coat the chicken pieces in cornstarch to make it a little bit crispier, and it's super delicious. We tossed it with some jalapenos, a little bit of cilantro scallions, and then finally the sauce was that sweet and sour chili sauce. It was so delicious, a little bit of soy sauce in there. Again, Paella Fridays, we always get the leftovers, so what did I decide to do today? Paella burrito, my favorite thing to eat at work with leftover paella. So for testers, I made a coca flatbread. You already know what's in that. I'll show you a picture in case you forgot. We have now a crudo, which is a local steelhead. It's pounded out, and on top it just gets a little bit of lemon vinaigrette, a little bit of Maldon salt, which is the big crisp salt, a little bit of black and white sesame seeds. Around it for the salad, we just added a little bit of fennel, blanched asparagus, and blanched fava beans, tossed with that lemon vinaigrette, and super delicious, topped with some house-made pickled onions. Then we had calamari toast, which is super delicious. So I have a picture of it, but it's not calamari. The one that I actually have is octopus, but it's basically the same idea. So we have a piece of toast that we cook on the plancha. You get it nice and crispy. You rub it with garlic for a little bit of flavor. You cut up half of an avocado, and so it ends up being a quarter on each piece of toast because the toast is cut in half. You put the calamaris right on top, so it's kind of like a nice stewy calamari you'll see in the picture, and then topped with lemon aioli with our Diablo sauce, which is Calabrian peppers, just, you know, with olive oil blended up really, really well. And around it we have some fava beans, so they're super delicious. Once again, we had the meat paella, which is so delicious, as you can remember. And today I had a new dish on my station, which is the fry station. We had a burrata cheese, which is just really, really delicious. A buffalo cheese. It's nice and gooey on the inside with a little bit of fried cresta de gallo, kind of like in a tempura, but pimenton batter. It's so delicious. And once again, don't forget to stay hydrated, so I had 2 cups of water. I decided to have an avocado sandwich. It was really good. Honestly, I can eat avocado with anything. Just a little bit of avocado inside of a bread is enough for me to be happy. Testers, once again, I did the burrata with the cresta de gallo and a little bit of basil. So I forgot to mention before that the burrata is cut in half, and you place both of the halves up, and on the inside you drizzle with some olive oil, a little bit of Maldon salt, some crunchy pepper right on top, and we put the cresta de gallo right around the cheese, kind of like circular, and tossed in at the end is a little bit of cut basil. Once again, a cocoa flatbread, just because we want to make sure that the dough is right, we make it good. And for staff meal, we had pasta with fish, so a tomato-based sauce, and the flatbread, the leftover flatbread with a little bit of rabbit, kind of like a pizza style. So what we did is some leftover rabbit that we had, we took it apart and kind of picked it apart, and we mixed it with avocado and a little bit of greens, so little snap peas that we had left over, and we just spread it right on top and cooked it in the oven for a little bit just to get it warm. So on the menu for that day on brunch was cecina, which is a cured meat, col salad. We have eggs, fried eggs with bacon, chorizo, house-made chorizo, shoestring potatoes, and brava sauce, and 2 pieces of churros for dessert. And so what we ate that day later, because we didn't have a really set time to eat because we were so busy making orders, the chef at the end of the day made us eggs with shoestring potatoes and scallions, so all tossed together, kind of really delicious with some greens. And then I fried up the rest of the churros, and we had that for dessert. And later on, the restaurant that's on the corner from us decided that they needed to borrow some eggs from us, so as payment they brought us eggs and steak burgers with herb potatoes. That was really, really delicious. Monday, I worked from home again, and then I was doing some work back at the office. So I kind of had an adventure this day. I had cereal for breakfast, but then there was also some really delicious chocolate cake in the fridge that I decided to eat. And then I had to run some errands, so I stopped at C's Candy to do one of my errands, but I also wanted to eat some candy. So I had an awesome candy bar, which is like a nugget candy with almonds covered in dark chocolate. And then I really like their pecan buds. So it's caramel with pecan stuck together, all like in a little clump. For the last day, for breakfast, I made myself cocoa flatbread. So I brought some leftover flatbread from work, and we had some Mexican rice left over. I fried myself an egg because I love eggs for breakfast, and like I mentioned before, I love avocados. So I put half of an avocado on there. So like I said, Tuesday I go to class, so I decided to have a turkey sandwich on a French roll with lettuce, pickles, and mustard.